it's pretty intense. So thank you, Matthew. Amongst other services.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, we'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers, and then we can get started. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Ram Hare Hare Matsamo Nasti Papatma Naparadhi Chakaschana Parihare Pilajjame Kimbruve Purushottama Bhumau Skalitapadana Bhumireva Valambana Parijata Paradhanam Vame Vasharanam Prabho Adadanastrинандante idam yache punah punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhojo Tulisyam Ajoham Syam Bhave Bhave. Hare Krishna. Rupali Mataji, Brian, Pranath, Prabhu, thank you for joining. So happy to see you all.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna,
Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. So I will ask Shamalangi Krishangi Mataji to keep track of who's, if you want to read, just put in your name on the chat, otherwise you'll be volunteered. So, and then let me just open this so that we can, all right, I'll open the Nectar of Devotion. You can read. So just to give a quick recap, we are going to read chapters 14, 15, and 16 today. We discussed at length about the layout of the Bhakti Sastri 4th semester, which will be the first 19 chapters of Nectar of Devotion. We said the breakdown of the chapters was as follows. The preface, introduction, and chapter 1. So before even we go into that, Nectar of Devotion is divided into 4 directions, which is the northern, the southern, the western, and the eastern. So, or rather, eastern, then goes southern, western, and northern. So it's like a, if you see, it's a clockwise way. For the Bhakti Shastri class, we are doing the first 19 chapters of Nectar of Devotion, which correspond to the eastern section or the eastern portion of the Nectar of Devotion. Just like an ocean, which is divided into different parts, like Atlantic, Pacific Ocean, Srila Rupa Goswami has divided the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is the ocean of the Nectar of Devotional Service, into 4 parts. The eastern part is what we will read for the Bhakti Shastris. Just like the ocean has waves, similarly, Srila Rupa Goswami has, after dividing the eastern, western directions, he has said there are waves in each of the parts. So, for the eastern portion, there are 4 waves. And the 4 waves are the Samanya Bhakti, or general characteristics of devotional service. Then the second wave is called the Vaidhi Bhakti, which is the devotional service in practice or devotional service in regulations. Then the next wave is called Bhava Bhakti, which means devotional service in almost love of Godhead. It's Bhava Bhakti. And then Prema Bhakti is devotional service in pure love of Godhead. Now, those waves have been, if you see the mapping, then the first wave corresponds to the preface, introduction, and chapter 1. The second wave, which is practice of devotional service under regulations, which is Vaidhi, corresponds to the chapters 2 through 16. So second, all the way to 16, at length we discuss about that. 17 and 18 correspond to the third wave, which is Bhava Bhakti. And the 19th chapter is called Prema. So this is the basic layout. Today we'll be doing chapters 14, 15, and 16. But before we get into that, we can start reading. And so we will end the Vaidhi Bhakti portion of it we'll complete with today. So the next class we'll be discussing the last 15. So Mataji, if I can also get the permissions to share. Able to see the screen?
Yes.
I'll stop share just a minute. Just a minute. Right. Who's reading? Ishwarya, you raised your hand. Is there a question?
Yes, I do have a question, Prabhu.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
said the first wave is called what?
Samanya means general. Samanya Bhakti. And the second wave is called Sadhana Bhakti. Is that good? All right.
Yes. And I can read too, if you like.
Okay. Sure. And then you can, please go ahead. Please read the first 2 paragraphs, please.
Okay. Devotional qualifications. Some scholars recommend that knowledge and renunciation are important factors for elevating oneself to devotional service. But actually, that is not a fact. Actually, the cultivation of knowledge or renunciation, which are favorable for achieving a footing in Krishna consciousness, may be accepted in the beginning, but ultimately they may also come to be rejected. For devotional service is dependent on nothing other than the sentiment or desire for such service. It requires nothing more than sincerity. It is the opinion of expert devotees that mental speculation and the artificial austerities of yoga practice may be favorable for becoming liberated from material contamination, but they will also make one's heart harder and harder. They will not help at all in the progress of devotional service. These processes are therefore not favorable for entering into the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Actually, Krishna consciousness, devotional service itself, is the only way of advancing in devotional life. Devotional service is absolute. It is both the cause and the effect. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause and effect of all that be. And to approach him, the absolute, the process of devotional service, which is also absolute, has to be adopted. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So the second wave we said was Samanya Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti. Now Sadhana Bhakti has two limbs to it. Can anybody type it in the chat? What are the two aspects or two divisions of Sadhana Bhakti? Or you can just unmute yourself and also say it. Okay. So sadhana has two divisions. One is called Vaidhi. Vaidhi means in the stages of devotional service, I have no taste for it. I am doing it because either I have taken initiation and I am following a vow of whatever I need to do at the time of initiation, which in ISKCON we are very familiar, which begins with chanting the 16 rounds of Mahamantra every day. But there is no deep any attachment. So this is called Vaidhi, or performing devotional service under regulative principles. This particular chapter 15, it talks about a very important aspect of devotional service, very practical aspect of devotional service, which is what is the qualification needed in terms of performing the pure devotional service to Krishna. And the way we can think about it is that renunciation and knowledge both are useful in the beginning. So this is, Srila Prabhupada actually makes a very important point. This is such an important point, but because here he says, actually the cultivation of knowledge or renunciation, which are favorable for achieving a footing in Krishna consciousness, may be good in the beginning, but devotional service in of itself doesn't need any other motivation. And that is, we slowly are moving from the regulative devotional service to the spontaneous. And it is said, and it's a very important point that Srila Prabhupada writes. So he says, this is such an important point we can take home. Actually, the cultivation of knowledge or renunciation, which are favorable for achieving a footing in Krishna consciousness, may be accepted in the beginning, but ultimately they may also come to be rejected, for devotional service is dependent on nothing other than the sentiment or desire for such service. It requires nothing more than sincerity. And then we'll talk about the pitfalls also. Srila Prabhupada really goes deep into it, but this is such an important point that he makes. And why is the knowledge or renunciation not needed or not given high grade of value in devotional service? It is because they will make one's heart harder and harder. Those who do dry renunciation for the sake of doing renunciation, they find it abhorrent that devotees are eating such sumptuous prasadam. Tomorrow, Ryan will be asked this question. You guys are saying you're yogis, but I see that your Sunday feast is so opulent. So how is it that you are yogis? What would be the answer? We'll come to that a little later, but in any case, you get the idea here. And the whole chapter dwells on this particular fact that Yukta Vairagya is discussed, where we'll continue a little bit and then we can discuss. So who is next in line to read? Krishnanji Mataji.
Priyanka Mataji.
All right, here we go. Yes, Mata, these two paragraphs, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. One can understand me only through devotional service. In beginning his teaching of the Gita, the Lord said to Arjuna, because you are my devotee, I shall teach these.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. I shall teach these secrets to you.
So sorry, Priyanka Mataji, my apologies. I just was not sure if you were able to see the screen, so I expanded it. But we are unable to hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, by mistake, my microphone got muted.
Okay.
So, should I start from the beginning, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Just...
The Vedic knowledge is fine, I think.
Okay. The Vedic knowledge means ultimately to understand the Supreme Lord, and the process of entering into his kingdom is devotional service that is accepted by all authentic scriptures. Mental speculators neglect the process of devotional service, and by simply trying to defeat others in philosophical research, they fail to develop the ecstasy of devotion. In the 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 31 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna says, "My dear Uddhava, for persons who are seriously engaged in my service, the cultivation of philosophical speculation and artificial renunciation are not very favorable. When a person becomes my devotee, he automatically attains the fruits of the renunciation of material enjoyment, and he gets sufficient knowledge to understand the absolute truth. That is the test of advancement in devotional service. A devotee cannot be in darkness because the Lord shows him special favor and enlightens him from within." Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So for substantiating his statement that renunciation and knowledge are not prerequisites for devotional service, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes Srimad Bhagavatam. One of the questions somebody might ask is, why extensively are we quoting from Bhagavatam? We accept Bhagavatam as the Amala Purana or the spotless Purana, and every sampradaya has their set of scriptures that they accept as the ultimate truth. In most of the cases, there are three scriptures that are accepted by all the sampradayas, which are Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutras. But Srila Jiva Goswami, he, in his Sandarbhas, which is the first of the book, is called the Tattva Sandarbha, which is published by the BBT. He goes at length to establish that for our sampradaya, for the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, and also not only for the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, but for those who are worshipping Krishna and who want to achieve love of Godhead. Our Bhagavatam is the source of our truth. Hence, all our acharyas quote extensively from Srimad Bhagavatam, not so much, say, for example, from Upanishads or Vedanta Sutras. Even though they are quoted from there, but it's not as extensive as Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the reason why you see Bhagavatam all over the place, and why not other scriptures. One of the most satisfying point we read today is, that is the test of advancement in devotional service. A devotee cannot be in darkness because the Lord shows him special favor and enlightens him from within. You can see how many people come to ISKCON or Krishna consciousness, and most of the times they might not have a lot of austerities, which means to say that from day one they might not be able to do fasting or abstain from things they are used to, which could hamper devotional service, or they might not be very learned in scriptures. But if one is able to take to the process of devotional service, gradually within, the renunciation and knowledge will come. And it is seen pretty more often than not that the taste for things which are material, which are not in relationship with Krishna, they gradually diminish. And that's one way to know, are we really advancing? Are we making progress? Is how much am I attached? And please note one point. This has to come organically. This has to come naturally. If one, of course, one follows the rules. Don't, oh, Prabhu, I do all sorts of things because naturally it should come. No, there should be exertion or effort from our part, but that exertion is more an imposition on our desires rather than those desires which are completely like crumbling from within. Those desires are really strong in our heart to enjoy. But then when we do devotional service, those don't become as important as they were prior to devotional service. And that is a litmus test on how we know whether we are advancing in devotional service and we are making tangible progress. Because this is one question devotees often ask. Am I really making progress? Any questions, any comments, any concerns?
Prabhuji, one question. There are several places where Krishna is having a conversation with Uddhava, right? Can you comment a little bit on the relationship of Krishna and Uddhava? It's quoted many places.
Thank you. So the talks between Krishna and Uddhava happen in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And those chapters, which are, I believe, 20 odd chapters, they are called Uddhava Gita. Now, Uddhava was one of the dearest friends of Krishna. He was cousin of Krishna, and he learned scriptures under the world famous or the universe famous Brihaspati. He was the disciple of Brihaspati. And he was the constant companion of Krishna in Dwaraka. Krishna would ask him for advice. Krishna would seek his counsel. He would be always by the side of Krishna in terms of when he was at home or palace. And Uddhava, when Krishna was in Dwaraka, of course, every day he was remembering the residents of Vrindavan, who he left when he completed his pastimes in Vrindavan. Krishna said to the residents of Vrindavan that I'll just go to Mathura and I'll come back. I have to take care of some business in Mathura and then I'll come back. But he never came back. And day and night, the devotees or the residents of Vrindavan were burning in the fire of Krishna. And Krishna, he sent Uddhava to Vrindavan. It is mentioned in Bhagavatam, the features wise or the complexion wise, he looked similar to Krishna, like in the same complexion as Krishna and having the same features, almost same features as Krishna. So Uddhava was sent to Vrindavan. And there is a long story. I'll take much time if we go into the details. But nevertheless, he went to Vrindavan, tried to pacify the residents of Vrindavan, but he came back wonderstruck by the love that the residents of Vrindavan had for Krishna. And he said in his prayers that may I become a creeper or a blade of grass or some sort of small shrub in Vrindavan, so that these gopis, when they walk on these beautiful lands, they might be able to step their feet on my head and I might get some bhakti. That kind of love that they have. So Uddhava was a very dear personality to Krishna. And later, when Krishna was about to leave the planet in the 11th canto, Uddhava asked Krishna about different kinds of, I'll tell you what I mean by that. So let me just duplicate this. Go to Bhaktivedanta Vedas. Yes. So if you can see here, and then he gives instructions to Uddhava, it starts from chapter 7, where Lord Krishna instructs Uddhava, and Krishna gives beautiful lessons on various topics. Uddhava is asking questions and Krishna is giving answers. And so it goes all the way till 29. So it's almost 22 chapters. Krishna gives different instructions on what is Sankhya and what is a Vedic path, what is the perfection of spiritual knowledge, Varnashrama, and Krishna's opulence. So many instructions he gives. What is the yoga system? So he gives wonderful lessons. And then a lot of the quotes that you see in this chapter are the part of these instructions. And Krishna, Uddhava was feeling intense separation, knowing that Krishna will leave this material world and wind up his pastimes. But the Lord ordered him that you should stay back and disseminate this knowledge that I'm giving it to you. So that in a nutshell, Naveen Daulat Prabhuji is Uddhava. Is that okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. That was very nice.
Thank you. Okay, so then you Ukta Vairagya. I think I'll ask Geetamrita to read this, and unless somebody else is there, Krishnangi Mataji, am I overstepping? Because
Yes, Prabhu. There are people, the devotees lined up.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Then please go ahead, and then okay, go ahead.
Geetamrita also volunteered to read, so she can go, Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for allowing.
So I read Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Srila Rupa Goswami then recommends that one should not be attached to material sense enjoyment, but should accept everything enjoyable that is in relationship to Krishna. For example, eating is necessary, and one who wants some palatable dishes to satisfy his sense of taste. So in that case, for the satisfaction of Krishna rather than for the satisfaction of the tongue, some palatable dishes may be prepared and offered to Krishna. Then it is renunciation. Let the palatable dishes be prepared, but unless they're offered to Krishna, one should not accept them for eating. This vow of rejecting anything that is not offered to Krishna is actually renunciation. And by such renunciation, one is able to satisfy the demands of the senses. The imperialists who try to avoid everything material may undergo several austerities, but they miss the opportunity of being engaged in the service of the Lord. Thus, their renunciation is not sufficient for perfection. There are many instances where, following such artificial renunciation without any contact with devotional service, the imperialists again fall down and became attracted to material contamination. There are many supposed renouncers, even at the present moment, who officially become sannyasis or renouncers, and outwardly claim that spiritual existence is the truth and material existence is untruth. In this way, artificially, they make a show of renunciation of the material world. However, because they cannot reach the point of devotional service, they fail to achieve the goal, and they again come back to material activities, such as philanthropic work and political agitation. There are many examples of so-called sannyasis who gave up the world as untruth, but again came to the material world because they were not seeking their real repose at the lotus feet of the Lord.
Thank you. So again, this is an important point that we need to discuss, because when what should we accept and what should we not accept? And so let's read the next two paragraphs. Krishangi Mataji, you can ask. Krishangi Mataji, you can ask the next person.
Sorry. Next is Naveen Prabhu and Preeti Mataji Prabhu.
Wonderful.
Right. One should not give up anything that can be utilized in the service of the Lord. That is a secret of devotional service. Anything that can be utilized in advancing Krishna consciousness and devotional service should be accepted. For instance, we are using many machines for the advancement of our present Krishna conscious movement. Machines like typewriters, dictating machines, tape recorders, microphones, and airplanes. Sometimes people ask us, why are you utilizing material products if you condemn the advancement of material civilization? But actually, we do not condemn. We simply ask people to do whatever they're doing in Krishna consciousness. This is the same principles on which in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advised Arjuna to utilize his fighting abilities in devotional service. Similarly, we are utilizing these machines for Krishna's service. With such sentiment for Krishna or Krishna consciousness, we can accept everything. If the typewriter can be utilized for advancing our Krishna conscious movement, we must accept it. Similarly, the dictating machine or any other machine must be used. Our vision is that Krishna is everything. Krishna is the cause and effect, and nothing belongs to us. Krishna's things must be used in the service of Krishna. That is our vision. This does not mean, however, that we should give up the principles of discharging devotional service or neglecting abiding by the rules and regulations prescribed therein. In the neophyte stage of devotion, one must follow all the principles regulated by the authority of the spiritual master. The acceptance and rejections of things should always be in pursuance of the devotional principles, not that one can independently manufacture some idea of what should be accepted or rejected. The spiritual master, as the visible manifestation of Krishna, is necessary, therefore, to direct the devotee on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. So this is a very amazing thing, because oftentimes in other paths, and Srila Prabhupada writes in personalists, it's clear cut. Anything that is matter is bad, and anything that is not matter is spiritual. So, which means that it is neti. Not this, not this, not this. Don't touch this. Don't touch this. Don't touch this, because it's matter. But when we accept, we are saying that we will accept everything that is related to Krishna as devotional or transcendental. And Srila Prabhupada writes in this example that we have computers and we have typewriters and so on. And so we use it as long as we can use it in service of Krishna. But here comes the problem. If one is not fully Krishna conscious or firmly situated in Krishna consciousness, then in the name of using matter in service of Krishna, one will be utilizing for himself or herself. So that's a great danger that the devotees have to take care of. And that's why, to counteract, Srila Prabhupada writes that it should be strictly under the guidance of a spiritual master who can help the disciples to use their material propensities in service of Krishna. Otherwise, it can become a very slippery slope. Oh, I'm eating meat in service of Krishna. But the question then comes is, okay, I'm offering meat and eating meat in service of Krishna, and everything can be utilized. So why not I can utilize meat in service of Krishna? But then the direction of the spiritual master forbids you from doing that. So unless there is the guidance of spiritual master, this principle can actually can cause downfall of the aspiring disciples or aspiring devotees. Helps? Good. Any questions? I see some I was manning the thing, though I couldn't see all the devotees. So welcome back, Swapna Mataji, Swati Mataji, Rishi, Mahabhav, Bhumika Mataji, Manjula Mataji. Hare Krishna. Any other, because this is a really important thing that we need to discuss. Oftentimes, we might, accept too much or accept too little. Sometimes, and the other thing is, as the movement advances, we'll talk of the renunciation as well. Fasting, that's one thing that is on the forefront. While we should fast as recommended by the scriptures, one cannot do that to the detriment of one's service to Krishna. For example, oh, how were your rounds? Totally sloppy, man. Why? What happened? Well, yesterday I did Nirjal Ekadashi, and today I barely could get up out of my bed, let alone hold a bead bag. Then the bigger question comes is that kind of renunciation that prevents you from doing your rounds sincerely, is it helpful? Actually, the answer is no. It's better you eat something on Ekadashi and chant the rounds next day properly, rather than doing Ekadashi for the sake of doing Ekadashi and not able to chant. Ishwari Radhamataji, you had a question.
Yes, Prabhu. In here we read that this vow of rejecting anything which is not offered to Krishna is actually renunciation. So, when we go out sometimes, or not even go out, maybe somebody brings something or whatever, how is it that, we didn't cook it, so we don't know. And then we can just offer if they tell us, yeah, there's no onion garlic, so you can have it or whatever. So can we just offer in our mind and then accept it, or that's not good?
Depends. The answer is, do you know those persons well? And are they from vegetarian background, but, or rather having non-vegetarian background? So there are finer nuances to that, how offended they will be and how offended they not will be. More often than not, the best principle is, yes, I will accept it, not to offend them, I'll accept it. And then you can, but I'm not hungry right now, I'll accept it later. Then you can make a choice later to kind of genuinely, in a spirit of genuineness, whether you can use it or not use it. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu. But what about when they go out, as a family or whatever, and they say, oh, it's a Jain restaurant and all these things. This is the biggest challenge. I said, oh, Krishna, I know I didn't cook any of these things. I cannot eat this. But they are adamant about, no, you should have something. It's, vegetarian, it's Jain. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it's an individual choice, as in because the reason I say is this. and even people who go to work, they have team lunches. For example, you're asked to accompany everybody to a restaurant and eat lunch as part of the team. And you cannot be like, you are all fools for eating in the restaurant. Don't you know that, unless you offer it, you can't say that in front of everybody. It's and you're obligated to kind of go with them. So, each devotee it's a personal thing. The reason I say that is, if the chances of my employment, or rather being looked unfavorably because I am quote unquote weird, the reason is nobody should judge you based on what you eat or what you don't eat. It's you should judge you based on the work that you do and the output that you do, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, Mataji, that is not true. And there are many people who look from your personal aspect as well, and they factor in at work or at school, for example, high schoolers. So you use the best possible judgment to kind of get out of the situation. And if it is blatantly thrust on you, then you are very firm about it. For example, what's wrong in eating meat? And then you are very firm saying that, I have some, either religious or you can social or whatever, my cultural upbringing, my religious, whatever you want to put in, doesn't permit me to eat this. I'm sorry, I cannot eat it. And most of the times they are respectful. Most of the times they are honest. It's just that, oh, I know you're Jain. This is Jain. It's more of a devotee's choice on how they want to do it. What is the liberties they can take with that situation. And even so is going to team lunch. More often than not, you can just say, I can eat salad, or you can eat something that is reasonably okay. But then it's your choice. Again, are they taking you to a vegetarian restaurant versus with no options, versus taking you to a steakhouse, which is absolutely not possible for a devotee. So there are many shades of nuances to it. I know it's a little bit vague, but it can be very, very situational, this question. I think the goal is that we remember these principles and strive for them, rather than, in a specific context, are we breaking the principles? That's a whole other topic, right? Obligation, I'm forced to do it. For example, Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, the Nawab Hussain Shah ordered them, either you come and work for me, or I'm going to kill all the Vaishnavas and Hindus in this land. That's your choice. What are you going to do? Should I accept employment from a meat eater who eats beef, or should I let the people be slaughtered? Those are the ethical dilemmas that kind of always come about. Does that answer a little bit? Good question.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. And where you can push back, you can push back. Where you have to be very obligated, then use the best possible judgment. For example, I'll pick on Mahabhav. He goes to the school. Now he's eating lunch with the friends, and then his friends might have got non-vegetarian stuff, and he just cannot say, you guys are all veggies and meat eaters, get out of my company. You're defiling me by your presence. He can't say that. Which is truth. He'll be perfectly speaking the truth. If you see the face of a person who eats beef, you have to jump into the Ganges with the clothes on to actually purify yourself. And it's fact, it's written in scriptures, but unfortunately, he has to exercise certain caution. Mahabhav, don't mind picking on me. You are muted. I can't hear you.
No, it's perfectly okay, bro.
Yeah. It's just truth. It's just truth. It's just the way it is. Or you cannot go to the office lunch and say, I will only come if you meat eaters never order anything in my sight. There should be no meat in my sight. Then only I'll come. Unfortunately, you can't say that, which is perfectly a reasonable thing from a devotee perspective. Don't get me wrong. But you see how we need to use them. Or going on a plane. I'll impose this condition on the staff. My aisle and all the row on my row, you should never serve meat. Then only I will come. Or within 10 feet, no meat served. Then I will come. Well, if you are extremely wealthy or powerful, you can make those conditions. But you are stuck in the plane with a person who could be eating very different. So, or even getting food from a plane is another whole thing. So, yeah, but good point. That's how, when you ask questions like this and when we discuss, then the bookish knowledge actually, the Vedic knowledge becomes practical on how to apply it. Otherwise, we keep, okay, books theoretical, practical, where is the question mark and how is the bridge? So these things we'll ask. Ulysses writes, I never go to a restaurant. Why bother? Only eat Krishna Prasadam, not by a non-devotee. Just take a little fruit. Something that's uncooked. Excellent point as well. Yeah, I mean, people go to restaurant because sometimes they are forced to. I mean, you have to go as part of lunches. But thank you. That's a nice point. Other points? Deepika, thank you for your answer. Why the end, Radhanaga? I didn't see that. Any other points before we go to the next part? Okay. Okay. The reason I say is this. We did read earlier that these could be construed as fall downs. For example, going to restaurant or being with non-devotees, or you're forced to, even family members and so on and so forth. So these could be construed as fall downs, micro fall downs, which they are, without being wrong about it. But the very practice of devotional service kind of, purifies us from those faults of being in the material world. And we just continue like that. All right. I'll actually, Mahaba, be ready. I'll ask a question, which hopefully I need to answer. Okay, who's next going to read?
I can read, Prabhuji. Preeti here.
Oh, okay, sure. Then, okay. Please read, Madhu.
Sri Rupa Goswami affirms herein that there are 9 different kinds of devotional service which are listed as hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping the deity in the temple, praying, carrying out orders, serving Krishna as a friend, and sacrificing everything for him. Each and every one of these processes is so powerful that if anyone follows even a single one of them, he can achieve the desired perfection without fail. For example, if one is attached simply to hearing about the Lord and another is attached to chanting the glories of the name, both will achieve their desired goal in devotional service. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this has been explained. One may execute 1, 2, 3, or all the different processes of devotional service, and at the ultimate end, he will achieve the desired goal of being established in devotional service. There are concrete examples of how a devotee discharged one of these services and achieved perfection. King Parikshit achieved the desired goal of life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadev Goswami achieved the desired goal of life simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaja became successful in his devotional service by always remembering the Lord. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, was successful by engaging herself in massaging the lotus feet of the Lord. King Prutu became successful by worshipping in the temple. Akruru became successful by offering prayers. Hanuman became successful by rendering personal service to Lord Ramachandra. Arjuna became successful by being a friend of Krishna. and Bali Maharaj became successful simply by offering all of his possessions to Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here it's mentioned that that one may execute 1, 2, 3, or all the different types of devotional service, and at the ultimate end, he will achieve the desired goal of being established in devotional service. So the question one may ask is, then why am I chanting 16 rounds? Because it's Srila Prabhupada or Rupa Goswami quotes here that I can do any of the 9 processes of devotional service. And that should give me perfection. So for example, a person might offer prayers to the Lord, or might do deity worship, archanam. I'll become perfectionist in archanam, or I'll become perfectionist in vandanam. And any of the 9 processes should give me perfection. Then why am I being forced to chant 16 rounds? Is my logical objection making sense?
Yes, Prabhu.
And then you can quote scriptures. You can quote our own scriptures. Forget scriptures of Upanishads or this or that. You can quote our own scriptures to deny I don't need to chant 16 rounds. And here is the proof. So the answer to that is twofold. Let's open up the debate before I can give my answer. Any thoughts? Anybody wants to chime in the answer?
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Sorry. There's Ulysses. Is that your name?
Hare Krishna.
Yes. How do I pronounce? Pranath Prabhu. I'll call you Pranath Prabhu. Three hands are raised. I'll call you. But are you driving, Pranath Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. No problem. Sorry, I didn't realize.
You're driving. Okay. Then you go first because you're driving, and please drive carefully. But you go first.
No problem, Prabhu. I'll listen, please.
No. Answer. Now that you are muted, answer and drive carefully, please.
My understanding is that at this sadhana bhakti stage, that I don't have taste for, one of those to do nityam, 24/7. I cannot chant, nor I can hear and read Bhagavatam 24/7. So until I get to the stage where I have spontaneous taste, I have to do all the Navavida Bhakti. That's my understanding.
Thank you so much, Pranath Prabhu. And then I'll call upon Ulysses, followed by Mahabhav, and then Ryan.
Hare Krishna. Pranams, Prabhu. So I have a top question topic related to this, and it's I'm having a hard time understanding what is selfish or not. So in devotional service, we have all these activities. For example, it's very common for food, offering food to the Lord, that the person will cook something that they personally like, because they know this is the quality of the prasadam. So it has this very selfish motive under the hood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this happens in pretty much, or it can happen in all aspects of devotional life. For example, if I'm fasting, I could say, well, I'm fasting for Krishna, but actually there's a selfish motive because I know if I fast, I'm going to get purified. So I'm having a hard time. What is the difference between a selfless act and not making it selfishly? You understand?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. It's an amazing question, actually.
Yeah, it's difficult. Pretty much all activities we could like if I'm preaching, they say, oh, I want to help others. So therefore, I'm preaching because I know that I will get benefit of every person that becomes a devotee. I'll get benefits. So there's a selfish motive for that too.
So I'll answer the question. I'm sorry, how do I pronounce your name?
Ulises, it's in Spanish, so it's a little hard, but
Ulises.
you can say Ulysses in English, yeah.
No.
Sorry.
Can you tell me the Spanish, please?
Spanish is Ulises.
Ulises.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ulises. So in the Bhagavatam prayers, I'll just share my screen, and then the relationship between service and my own desire of well-being is mentioned in Bhagavatam. I'll just share the screen. So if you go to Bhagavatam, you go to 7th canto. Let's open chapter. So this is the verse. Naivatmana prabhurayam nijalabha purno manam janada vidusha karuno vranite yajjano bhagavate vidaditamanam tat chatmane pratimukasya yatha mukashri. The translation is the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in himself. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee, for the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in the mirror is seen to be decorated. So our natural position, is to serve God. It is the natural position of the soul. By service to God, automatically I am satisfied. It just becomes as a byproduct. I'm not looking to see if I am satisfied first, and then I'll try to make Lord happy. The thing is, my position is such that if I satisfy Krishna, then I'm perfectly happy on my own. That's a very nature of devotion, that you cannot avoid it. Even though, God, I will just serve you, I don't even want any happiness in my service. But the nature of bhakti to Krishna is such, you will automatically be satisfied. It is just a byproduct. So as long as my intention remains that Krishna, I want to satisfy you, and that is the only purpose of what I am doing, whether you get happiness or whether at times you don't get happiness, that is his choice. But if we can keep that intention, that sankalpa, that resolution, that this is what I want to do, Krishna, then it's not selfishness. And the other thing is, for those who are really new to devotional service, Bhagavatam offers so many benefits. If you read this chapter, then you will get this. The whole idea is that, initially when you approach God, you don't approach God completely with a mentality of pure devotional service. You approach God with either I'm suffering or I need some wealth. Then Krishna will satisfy you, but that relationship will slowly become pure devotional service. So from the highest, where Krishna, I just want to serve you irrespective of how happy or how unhappy I am, from the lowest, where Krishna, I'm going to approach you only for my own satisfaction, there are gradations of devotees but nevertheless, all of them are equally magnanimous, as Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. I hope that satisfies your answer.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, it's clear, but I still have this doubt in my heart.
Okay.
It's difficult to answer.
No, I do agree. And the other thing is, so more often than not, today I want to eat, you can fill in the blank, and everybody has their own favorite food, based on the past conditioning, cultural upbringing, or religion, or nationality, or ethnicity. Everybody has a favorite food to eat. And if I cannot satisfy, sometimes it is nothing to do with Krishna. Today I want to eat this. But at least Krishna is saying that this fellow is not just going to the store, buying that stuff, and just not even coming home. He, before even paying in the grocery, is just going to eat everything. Krishna is saying, at least this fellow, even though he wants to eat this stuff, he's going to the grocery, he's getting that stuff, he's bringing it home, either cooking or whatever be it, and he's offering to me first. I am so happy with this person. That is Krishna's way of thinking. Even though we actually might be thinking from the selfish perspective. I'll leave, if that's okay. I'll tell one more verse and then we can go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, because this will really inspire. This verse will truly give you some solace and satisfaction in life. Because oftentimes I do agree, we are caught this mind, am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it for Krishna? Does Krishna accept this, or does Krishna not accept this?
Yes, especially I notice in neophyte devotees,
yeah,
or beginner devotees, like for example, they're in the mode of passion, so they will like foods that are in the mode of passion, very hot or very pungent, too salty, and so they'll offer those things in some sort of devotional attempt, but it's very much tainted by the mode of passion. So it's very, very difficult to understand as a devotional incident. Like you're saying, it's just a glimpse, It's not really, it's more selfish than devotion, but there's a glimpse of devotion.
But in that selfishness, there is selflessness, that even though I'm a passionate person, but I'm offering to Krishna, and Krishna will accept that. Krishna somehow, because otherwise, here will be the problem. Okay, either that person who is in the mode of passion has to come to the mode of goodness. It's going to take this lifetime or hundreds of lifetime before he comes. And then who knows, by that time, will he even accept, will he take devotional service? Because the life is running away, or the human life is so important, at least that person is taking the pain to offer to Krishna, and Krishna will see that. And I'll leave you with this particular verse. Hopefully that will satisfy you. I'll just read the Sanskrit, and I ask you to read the translation and the purport. It's a short purport. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigam sayada papaya tapya sadhe lebhe gatenda truchitam tatonyam kamvadayalum sharanam rajena. Please, translation and purport.
I don't see the slide screen. I don't know where it is.
Nobody is able to see the screen?
We can see the screen, Prabhu.
We can see, Prabhu.
Okay. All right. I'll just post it in the Slack channel, or I'll somebody can read.
Deepika Mataji is next in line, Prabhu.
Okay, she can read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You want me to do translation in perfect role?
Sorry, Masji, we cannot we can barely hear you.
Oh, now I see it.
Oh, now you see it? Okay. Please go ahead. And Deepika Masji can read later. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, the purport or the translation?
Both.
Okay. Alas, How shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast? Purport. Here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stalk of poison. In his babyhood, he was administered deadly poison by Putana, a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby. Because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no one less than the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee, Yashoda. The Lord may assume the form of a baby or a shape other than that of a human being, but it doesn't make the slightest difference. He's always the same Supreme. A living creature, however powerful he may become by dint of severe penance, can never become equal to the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? Haribo.
Haribol. So the idea here is, I agree that a person who's in the passion preparing heavy, salty or pungent food should move, but it is Krishna who is extremely merciful that he will not mind that as long as the devotee is accepting or offering him in sincerity. You know, if my Lord, I'm in the mode of passion and this is what I am, so please accept it. And Krishna will say, oh, you fool, why are you giving it to me in the mode? No, he'll never say that. He is so kind, he'll say, okay, you gave me and I'll accept it out of love. Because and hopefully as the devotee is in Krishna consciousness, by it's a matter of time when the mode of passion just disappears and the devotee is fully situated in the mode of goodness by the power of the purifying effect of bhakti. So yeah, but then the last point I want to add is, if the devotee doesn't rectify, oh, God is good, accepting me in the mode of passion, I'll stay in the mode of passion, then he'll fall down. Sorry to interrupt.
More difficult situation for me, because if somebody is a devotee and he's offering me some prasadam that I know it's full of mode of passion, I don't want to accept it.
I see.
I know, because I know this is mode of passion. Why should I take this? This is not coming from Krishna. He may accept the mood of the devotee, but the food is still mode of passion. That, at least that's what I think.
I do. Yeah. So sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That was the end thing. It's just that it's difficult situations, you know.
I do agree. There is every shade, everything cannot be black and white, and there could be always shades of gray in this matter. So thank you. All right. Thank you. Ryan, you have no more question, or your question is answered?
Yes, Prabhu.
All right. See, thank you for your question. Who is this? Everybody's question is answered. There are 4 hands and I see none. Thank you. All right. Oh, goodness gracious. We have to complete 2 more chapters.
Prabhu?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you please elaborate on that question that you asked, Prabhu? Can you please answer that about the different 9 forms of devotional service? Why not do just one?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Pranath Prabhu. So there are 2 angles of looking at it on why I should chant 16 rounds, and I can prove using the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami. The first answer to that is using the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami, we say that the most important step for a neophyte candidate is to accept the shelter of a spiritual master and follow his instructions. And the most important instruction that the spiritual master gives is what, Ishwari Radha Mataji?
Follow the 4 regular principles, chant 16 rounds.
Yeah, so the 16 rounds is the most important thing.
Chanting.
And chanting of the Maha Mantra attentively every day. So using Srila Rupa Goswami itself, we are saying because it is, and that's come from our parampara. The second way to look at it is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was asked, like, amongst all the 9 items of devotional service, which is the most important one? And Mahaprabhu unhesitatingly said, chanting of the Maha Mantra. And he himself was chanting very strictly. The third reason for that is that, in this age, what is effective? Yes, you can do deity worship. You can do other forms of devotion. But what is effective? For example, a person to do deity worship, it's extremely tedious or strict. You really have to do it on time. You have to have cleanliness. You have to follow the rules and regulations. You have to, for example, any item that you are offering has to be purified by mantra, purified by mudra. Otherwise, the offering has some drawback. And throughout your life, you can perform it, but you can perform it faultily. And sometimes there are times you might not do it on time. So that's the reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatarpita Niyamita Nasmarane Nakalaha Etadrishi Tava Kripabhagam Mahapi Durdavyamutrishabhyajani Navaraga. He says there is no time, there is no consideration for chanting the names. And given that we are in Kali Yuga, what would be the most effective way of purifying ourselves? That would be the holy name. And that's the reason why we, even if we do anything or not do anything, if we like really, from as much sincerity and we can muster, chant the 16 rounds, then to that extent, the purification will be fast and we can make rapid advancement in spiritual life. Is that helpful, Pranath Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, but then in parallel, the Pancharatrika Vidhi is also recommended, right? I mean, do we still?
Yes. So Pancharatrika Vidhi is recommended, but it's not mandatory. And let me explain. That doesn't mean that, oh my God, why am I doing deity worship? No, personally, I do deity worship every day. I worship Shaligrams. If for some reason you're traveling and you cannot, for example, worship Shaligram, but still you have to chant your 16 rounds, and that's not possible. But Pranath Prabhu has a point where Srila Prabhupada recommended that even if you are chanting 16 rounds, because we need some sort of regulation and cleanliness to have that mental discipline, it's always good to supplement it with deity worship. But deity worship can never be substituted. I'm doing elaborate 4-hour puja every day, but I don't have much time to chant. So that is not acceptable. Is that helpful, Anand?
Yes, Prabhu, I understood. I thought maybe I misunderstood the question. I thought why the other. I understand the part of the Yuga Dharma is chanting the holy names, and our the first and foremost is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the 16 rounds, minimum 16 rounds. But do do other forms of other, other than Shravanam and Kirtanam, are other forms, can one perfect himself or not?
You can, but not in this age or not in this time, especially for now. Without the holy name, it is impossible.
Right, Prabhu, that I understand. But for me to develop that pure love or spontaneous taste for chanting the holy name, I thought these will help me to, until I, the sadhana bhakti stage, as you mentioned, that I'm regulated, doing regulated bhakti, right? Until it becomes spontaneous, naturally it comes. I thought all these other forms of devotional service are also required to help me to get to that stage, where I can spontaneously chant the holy name of the Lord.
No. The reason is, Srila Prabhupada, he himself writes, any one of the processes will give you perfection. But not everything. So all the devotees cannot do everything, right, Prabhu? For example, 16 rounds I chant, but I cannot go. For example, I'm not close to the temple. So Archanam is ruled out. Maybe I can do a little bit at home. Every day, how much of prayers are we offering? Vandanam. Every day, how much are we doing of Atma Nivedanam or Pada Sevanam? Most of the items we are unable to do it. So as much as you can, that can supplement your chanting and it will help improve your chanting, you should be able to do it.
Okay, thank you.
I know. If you're not satisfied, I think we can get more into it.
No problem, Prabhu. Yeah, I mean, it is clear to me that chanting the holy names is the Yuga Dharma, is the main, process recommended in this age of Kali. Nothing else works the most. But maybe I was not clear with the question. I thought, we do these also. I thought to help us purify ourselves. That's what I was.
And yes, especially Srila Prabhupada writes, for grihasthas, you have to do deity worship, otherwise they'll fall down from their 16 rounds. For grihasthas, he is given very specific. For example, sannyasis, they are traveling all the time. And how can they have deity worship, maintain deity worship? So probably it might, that's why you see not many sannyasis travel around with deities. So does that mean that they are not chanting, or you get the idea, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Yeah.
So in this age of Kali, even if one performs the other forms of devotional service, the Kali Yuga, they will not obtain pure love for Krishna.
The chances are very slim. I wouldn't say that it's impossible because it's written in the scriptures, but it's the Kali Yuga, the main Yuga Dharma, as you said, is the chanting of the names. Other things, maybe exceptional cases might be there who might also achieve. But personally, I haven't heard, Pranath.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Ishwari Radhamathi.
Prabhu, I have a question about deity worship. When you go somewhere for more than like a couple of days, what do you say to your deities? Or there's other people in the house, but they're not gonna do it for you. So what do you do in that case?
So there are a couple of options. You can take a small representative of your deities, like a small murti, that you can go and you can offer simple puja wherever you go, if possible. If it is not possible, then you can always do Manasa Puja from wherever you are. You get up in the morning, you mentally offer worship to the Lord. So there are 2 or 3 ways of kind of tackling the problem. And given the time, place, circumstance, it is a little tough. So yeah, I do agree with that. Is that okay?
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. But physically, what do you do before you go somewhere, for vacation?
You beg for the deity's mercy. You say that I'm leaving for 2 days. I'm your eternal servant, but somehow or other I have to travel, and please forgive me for my inability to serve you for next 2 days, and then take their permission.
Okay. And then still, wherever you go, you can, like you said, just offer with your mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless, of course, there is a stricture like Kshetra Sannyas, or it's like you have taken a vow to worship your deities every day for your life. Or there could be some vows like that which I am unfamiliar. Then it's a whole other discussion we need to have. Okay. All right. So Ulysses is still on that point. The first verse quoted from Bhagavatam seems to make things worse, because Krishna is already satisfied, so it appears as if all the activities of the devotees are for the benefit of devotee, for the self. No, it is for the satisfaction of the Lord, but since the Lord is already satisfied, he is only wanting for the greed of his devotees. The only thing he's unsatisfied about, Krishna, is the greed, or the greed of love. He is never satisfied. And that's why Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, Yome Bhakta Prayachit, which means that if somebody offers me with love a fruit, a leaf, or a flower, or some water, in the Patram Pushpam. Patram is leaf, Pushpam is flower, Toyam is water. Patram Pushpam Phalam. Phalam, fruit. And he asks for 4 items. And he says, offer it with love, then I'll accept it. So it's not, but then it seems very contrary or ironical that God is asking for these stuff. Is he having also a drought in Golok Vrindavan, perchance? Maybe there is a water shortage in Golok Vrindavan that he's asking for water from us. No, he has enough. But then why is he asking? If he's enough, then he shouldn't ask, because ultimately, what is the purpose of his asking? The purpose is to exchange for that love of devotee and the Lord. And that devotee and the love, the devotee and the exchange of love based on the modes that they are in might take different forms in the beginning and might ultimately end up in pure love of Godhead. All the activities are not selfish. Please understand that when a devotee approaches Krishna, then that devotee is not 100% selfish. The idea is that somehow only pure devotees of Krishna who are on the Uttama Adhikari level, they are completely selfless, and everybody below them is completely selfish. I don't think that's a fair idea to those, especially who are struggling. Everybody is conditioned with material existence. And, I have conditioning, you have conditioning, everyone has conditioning, which means that in the place that where we are in today, we are doing our best to serve the Lord. And if the intention remains strong, if the intention remains pure, then Krishna himself says, Apichet Swaracharo Bhajate Manam, that if the devotee is always focused upon me, but he may be committing the most abominable activities, still he should be considered a sadhu. So I hope that answers. All right. We'll try to complete at least one more chapter. Then the chapter 16 is something that we can read, and then we can discuss questions. So we do have 30 more minutes. I have a hard stop at 2:30. Who's next? Chapters 15 and 16 move from Vaidhi to Raganuga Bhakti.
Deepika Mataji.
Oh, no. Okay, please read. I think it's good we are reading, so I can correct everybody right now. Okay, please read, Nancy. And my request to you is, Deepika Mataji, please don't read this as Raganuga. Please read it as Ragatmika. This is wrong. So here, I'll just type it in the end. You should read this as Ragatmika. Raga. Should read like, instead of wherever there is Raganuga, please read it as Ragatmika.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm the first to come.
Examples of spontaneous devotional service can easily be direct associates in Vrindavan. The spontaneous feelings of the residents of Vrindavan in relationship with Krishna are called Ragatmika. These beings don't have to learn anything about devotional service. They are already perfect in all regulative principles and have achieved the spontaneous loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, the cowherd boys who are playing with Krishna do not have to learn by austerities or penances or yogic practice how to play with him. They have passed all tests of regulative principles in their previous lives, and as a result, they are now elevated to the position of direct association with Krishna as his dear friend. Their spontaneous attitude is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Sri Rupa Goswami has defined Ragatmika Bhakti as spontaneous attraction for something while completely absorbed in thoughts of it, with an intense desire of love. Devotional service executed with feelings of spontaneous love is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Devotional service under the heading of Ragatmika can be further divided into two categories. One category is called sensual attraction and the other is called relationship. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the reason I said it is that let me share a snippet from the book, and I can post it on the WhatsApp group right now, so you'll know why I kind of said that, so that we can talk about it right away. Okay, I'll just share it right now, and then if you can open your WhatsApp group, you can see the difference. Is anybody opened it and saw it?
Yes, from.
Yes.
So you can see it is actually, the word is called Ragatmika, and they printed for the older versions wherever it is called Raganuga. So please, that has to be corrected. So let me explain, as it is mentioned, the devotees in Vrindavan that we read about in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, who are eternal associates of the Lord, they are called Ragatmika devotees. Now, Atmika or Atma means the soul, right? Atma is the soul. And Raga means extreme attachment to Krishna, whose soul is just the attachment to Krishna. That is called Ragatmika. They have, their whole being is meant for Krishna, because they are not conditioned by the material modes of nature. They have no other thought of, they have no other thought, they have no other aspiration or inspiration except to serve Krishna. And those devotees are called Ragatmika. So that is mentioned here. So this is called the Ragatmika Bhaktas. And then Raganuga devotees are those who follow in the footsteps of Ragatmika devotees. So when we achieve perfection in devotional service, every devotee has a unique relationship with Krishna. And that relationship technically in Sanskrit is called rati. Rati means a relationship. Rasa, we usually talk of dasya rasa, shanta rasa, dasya rasa, sakhya rasa, vatsalya, madhurya. The rasa implies the mellow or the joy of serving Krishna, that expression or that feeling, it's called rasa. But rati means relationship. For example, a mother felt happy looking at her child, which means that happiness experienced by the mother is called rasa, but the relationship of mother and child is called rati. So Raganuga devotees, so when one makes advancement in devotional service, one comes onto the Raganuga platform. In that platform, one meditates on one's natural relationship with Krishna, and they seek out the Ragatmika Bhaktas to serve under them to achieve perfection. So that is the difference between Raganuga and Ragatmika. So for those who want to remember simply, Ragatmika is the advisor, Raganuga is the student, PhD student. Mahabhav, did I get it right?
Yes, Prabhuji, I think so.
All right. Any so this is but there are some really nice points that Srila Prabhupada makes about a couple of points he makes, which are, please read both. It's really important and worth reading, 15th and 16th. A couple of points Srila Prabhupada makes, or Rupa Goswami makes, is gopis were attracted to Krishna in spontaneous love of Madhura or conjugal relationship. But Kamsa was attracted to Krishna in fear. And Shishupal was attracted to Krishna, but in complete envy. From the birth, he was blaspheming Krishna. He was just constantly absorbed in criticizing Krishna. And you can see how, even though these various personalities, they achieved the same goal. And Srila Prabhupada goes at length to see, what do you mean by same goal? So let me show the verse that I'm talking to. What is this guy talking about? Let me tell you, what am I talking about? The thing I'm talking about is the 7th chapter, so 7th canto and 1st chapter, right? So here in this particular one, it is mentioned that the Lord is equal to everyone. And in this fascinating chapter, Yudhishthira Maharaj asked this very important question. He says, it's very wonderful that the demon Shishupal merged into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though extremely envious. This Sahyajya Mukti is impossible to attain even for the great transcendentalists. How then did the enemy of Lord attain it? And that was a shocking thing. He's an enemy, yet he got a very exalted position. And so he, at this length, he says, yeah, Narada Muni answers the question. Therefore, by enmity or by devotion service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desire, by all of these or any one of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. And then he writes further, many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention. and giving up sinful activities. And then he says, this is the example. My dear King Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. Now, this is a little shocking. Why am I wasting my time following regulative principles then? Why don't I become a first-class demon and be killed by Krishna? Or more importantly, why don't I criticize and blaspheme Krishna like Shishupal did, and I can get the same thing? Two problems with that. One is that it's not pure devotional service, because pure devotional service is favorable to Krishna. And the second thing is, the destinations got by the demons is not same as the devotees. It's a different destination. We earlier read the verse, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Putam Jigam Sayada Papaya Pyasad. He says that the Putana who came with a desire to kill Krishna, but Krishna gave her liberation, then the answer to that is, she didn't get the same position as Mother Yashoda. She got the position in Brahma Jyoti. And Srila Prabhupada goes at length. Please read this. It's a very fine distinction and very important distinction to make. Otherwise, we devotees will be discouraged. What's the point? Why am I struggling so much when the demons got the same thing? No, please, there is a very, very subtle difference that we need to do. And so the whole of chapter 16 is more of that is try to spend on this particular thing. And then also Srila Prabhupada takes time to explain what is the lusty desire of the devotees. Lusty desire can be like a very mundane and very ordinary mention, but there was a gulf of difference between what is lusty desire. And then the other thing is gopis, they decorated their bodies for Krishna. They decorated it very beautifully. Is that selfish or is that unselfish? So, all these things are kind of discussed a little bit. So please take your time to go through chapter 15. And then chapter 16, there is a talk of Raganuga Bhakta and what the Raganuga Bhakta, what their characteristics are, and how even though one becomes very advanced, one still follows regulative principles, and who can be considered as a Raganuga Bhakta? What are the qualities? It's very beautifully described. How do I join the WhatsApp group? Julie says that it is, please send your phone number. How did you know about the class? This is. Okay. All right.
From the website.
I see. Thank you. I didn't know that. So thank you. Thank you for joining. Yeah. This is the Bhakti Sastri, so we'll have the tempo classes at 3:30. Other questions, other comments? I wish we could continue reading. I wish we can go every chapter and then go at length. But let's see. We will at least read. Let's do one more paragraph. Whoever is next in line, they can do the reading and then we can go. Okay, share. We can do chapter 15 and then eligibility for Raganuga. So this is all right. This is the difference between Raganuga. Who's next to read?
Rajanandini Devidasi.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Eligibility for spontaneous devotional service. Persons desiring to follow in the footsteps of such eternal devotees of the Lord as the Vrishnis and Vrindavana denizens are called So I have to substitute there, right?
No. It is correct. No, this is correct. Only for that particular, only the 15th paragraph, wherever I showed, then.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are called Raganuga devotees, which means that they are trying to attain to the perfection of those devotees. These Raganuga devotees do not follow the regulative principles of devotional service very strictly, but by spontaneous nature, they become attracted to some of the eternal devotees such as Nanda or Yashoda, and they try to follow in their footsteps spontaneously. There is a gradual development of the ambition to become like a particular devotee, and this activity is called Raganuga. We must always remember, however, that such eagerness to follow in the footsteps of the denizens of Vrindavana is not possible unless one is freed from material contamination. In following the regulative principles of devotional service, there is a stage called Anartha Nivriti, which means the disappearance of all material contamination. Sometimes someone is found imitating such devotional love, but factually he is not freed from anarthas or unwanted habits. It has been seen that a so-called devotee proclaims himself a follower of Nanda, Yashoda, or the gopis, while at the same time his abominable attraction for mundane sex life is visible. Such a manifestation of divine love is mere imitation and has no value. When one is actually spontaneously attracted to the loving principles of the gopis, there will be found no trace of any mundane contamination in his character. Thank you.
And then, sorry, next two paragraphs, please.
Next is Vaidahi Raganuga.
Mataji, that was answered. I think it can still Ryan.
Sorry, sorry, Mataji. Maybe next Ryan can read.
Okay, Prabhu. Therefore, in the beginning, everyone should strictly follow the regulative principles of devotional service according to the injunctions of the scriptures and the spiritual master. Only after the stage of liberation from material contamination can one actually aspire to follow in the footsteps of the devotees in Vrindavan. It is said by Sri Rupa Goswami, when one is actually liberated from material contamination, he can always remember an eternal devotee in Vrindavan in order to love Krishna in the same capacity. In developing such an aptitude, one will always live in Vrindavan, even within his mind. The purport is that if it is possible, one should go and physically be present at Vrajabhumi Vrindavan, and be engaged always in the service of the Lord, following the devotees in Vrajadham, the spiritual realm of Vraja. If it is not possible, however, to be physically present at Vrindavan, one can meditate anywhere on living in that situation. Wherever he may be, one must always think about life in Vrajadham and about following in the footsteps of a particular devotee in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So you can see that Raganuga is the devotee who is an apprentice, who is trying to serve under a particular Ragatmika devotee. And these are all the things that are beyond it's way beyond the mundane conception. So one should not prematurely jump into it. And Srila Prabhupada writes as well that one should not prematurely jump into this, because that can cause havoc in one's spiritual life. And then we do have a few examples of conjugal love and the gopis, and then there's parenthood. So there are a few things like that. I know we didn't cover everything for the lack of time, but then I just wanted to leave some questions as well. So yeah, Rohini Dilal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this Raganuga stage, right? At which stage of devotional service one starts to understand his particular raga, and one starts to follow the Ragatmika in the footsteps of the Ragatmika Bhakta? Is it at Bhava stage, or at what stage you will understand that particular raga?
So I don't know if you joined maybe a little late, but where I was explaining about the different waves of devotion. First is called the Samanya Bhakti, the second is the Sadhana, the third is the Bhava, and the fourth is the Prema Bhakti. Now, the second wave, which is called Sadhana Bhakti, has two parts, which is Vaidhi and Raganuga. So this happens actually even before one achieves Bhava. This is happening either at the Vaidhi stage itself, but it's the Raganuga Vaidhi Bhakta. It's Raganuga Bhakta, not the Vaidhi Bhakta. So sadhana has two stages, which is Vaidhi and Raganuga. This is sadhana Raganuga, and at this stage it happens before Bhava comes. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu, I understand. So even before the complete anartha nivritti, one understands this particular raga in the spiritual world. I mean, the particular relationship to some extent.
No, Srila Prabhupada writes that at least one must. So there is the stages, right? Adav Shraddha, Tato Sadhu Sangha, Tato Ta Bhajana Kriya, Tato Anartha Nivrittisya, Tato Nishta Ruchistata, Asaktis Tato Bhava, Tata Prema Abhyudanchati, Sadhakanam Ayam Premna, Pradur Bhava Bhamet Kramaha. So forget Anartha Nivritti. So there is Shraddha. In the beginning, there is Shraddha or faith. Then there is Sadhu Sangha. Then next is Bhajana Kriya. Next is Anartha Nivritti. Then there is Nishtha. Then there is Ruchi. Then Asakti. Then Bhava, and then Prema. So Anartha Nivritti is very, very below the rung. We still have, after Anartha Nivritti, you have Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, all those things. Somewhere along those lines, you will get the Raganuga stage. If you are still struggling with Anartha Nivritti, means you are still most likely you are on a sadhana stage, unless you are exalted devotee, externally manifesting those qualities.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's always better to think ourselves unqualified and not to self-assessment in these matters can be somewhat of a tricky, slippery slope, because you can assess, yes, I am on Nishtha right now. I don't know which goal mark. It's the other thing is, please understand, from what little I know, it's never you are in a bucket, Oh, which bucket are you? I'm Shraddha bucket. What bucket are you? I'm in Anartha Nivritti bucket. What bucket it's not a bucket thing. It's like you are moving forward, but the traces still remain. In fact, it is mentioned that even up till you go to Bhava, there could be traces of Anartha Nivritti that can pull you back again. Maharaj Bharat, he was on the stage of Bhava, but somehow he got attached to a deer, and in the next life, he had to be pulled back. So as we move forward, the past things will get cleared out, but the trace remains. And it's mentioned that if you reach the stage of prema, then only then you can never fall down. Otherwise, till that stage, one has to be cautious.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. But on Bhava stage, the material contamination is like a trace. It's like you put in a ocean of you put a drop of ink in an ocean. You can barely find the drop, but nevertheless it's there. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. absolutely.
Right. Any other question?
So, I mean, if a person is at bhava stage, we can very well understand that he is already, I mean, the raga is already established in him, and then he's following the ragatmika, right?
Most of the times, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Because apparent contradiction to that is, well, which ragatmika devotee was Maharaj Bharat? Well, right? So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. So most of the times.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. If there is no question, then Hugh is. I'm sorry, I'll get your name right. You have to.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. So I'm gonna try to explain it in a simple way, and you tell me if it sounds reasonable to you.
Okay.
So my understanding is that a devotee in the beginning, he will be motivated to perform devotional activities out of duty or attraction for the results. So there is a lot of selfishness that if I fast on Ekadashi, so many sins will be erased, or etc., etc. And so this selfish mood would pretty much be only existent in the Vaidhi Bhakti portion. And it seems to me that as soon as you start to reach into the Raganuga platform, then the activities don't have that tinge of selfishness. At least that's what I'm getting from these verses, that this other stage that's higher than Vaidhi transcends the fact that the devotee is just doing it for some personal benefit.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Correct. And in fact, it's mentioned for the Ragatmika devotee who are situated on love of Godhead, not a single thought actually enters the brain that is not related to Krishna. It's the mind is so, the whole being is so steeped in love of Krishna that any other thought of other things won't enter their mind. As you so rightly pointed out, because I'm in a very conditioned state of existence and I've been here since time immemorial, and my whole life has been somehow selfishly trying to grab what I can get for myself, whether I was in a man body, woman body, or animal body. When I come to devotional service, those past tendencies are very, very, very strong. And even if I do devotional service in the neophyte stage, I might do it for prestige. I might want to do it for recognition. I might want to be Krishna is somewhere in the background. It's about me here. But then as we advance, then I go into background and Krishna is the only reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I don't care if I get recognition, I don't get name, I don't get fame, money, whatever.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Is that helpful? All right. Any other kind of thoughts? We have one more class, which has bhava and prema. And should we do a kind of revision as well in classes? Just let me know what you need, so that I plan to take one more class and we need to cover the remaining 3 chapters, and then there is exam. So I'll be more than happy to spend more time in terms of revision and or other. Maybe you have some questions, maybe you have some concerns, maybe you have exam-wise, content-wise. I'll be more than happy to spend time as much as you want. I'm here to serve all of you.
So Prabhu, next time we're covering 18 and 19, next class?
17, 18, and 19. So we completed, we completed 14, 15, and 16 today. So 15 and 16 are Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And then 17 and 18 are Bhava. and then 19th is prema. Right? If there are no other questions, I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for joining today. And please forgive me for any mistakes or any shortcomings on my part. I'm neither having any qualifications to teach, nor do I have good character, nor I have any knowledge. But I'm just trying to follow the orders of my superiors and do the best I can. Any final thoughts, any reflections, any feedback, any comments in the last minute or so?
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing your knowledge, your realizations, your everything with us, because this really helps in studying this scripture. I'm very touched. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maxi. I'm touched by your sincerity. You come every week, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I'll see you all.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare